you've been making a number of different videos on the whole Dave Mustaine, Joe Rogan experience
Mega
situation.
Dave.
I watched.
Let's be honest. It's not Megadeth,
like
bro. It's Mega Dave. Get it right.
Sure. It doesn't make me more interested. I'll be honest, but I did watch the entire. I did watch the entire. Well, except like the last like 20 minutes of the podcast. It was a good one. It was a very good episode. I thought it helped me understand Dave better, I think.
Here's the issue with that podcast. I think this affects everyone. I personally have had concerns expressed about what Dave has gone through, for themselves. And what it is like intellectual property, right? Let's say you come up with an idea. Perhaps it's the greatest riff ever. I don't know. Maybe you found the pick of destiny.
You're talking specifically about where Dave says that they stole music from him. Metallica stole music from him.
That's what I'm getting at. And
gotcha.
In the early 80s, when Dave Mustaine was a part of Metallica, he had riffs in songs like Metal Militia, and then also in Ride the Lightning, the second Metallica album. And once he got the boot from Lord Peahet, what happened was, Kirk Hammett came in, right? And basically took Dave Mustaine's place. He even learned Dave Mustaine's solos. And so Kirk Hammett started getting paid for Dave's creative intellectual property.
Well, more specifically, he started getting royalties for that.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So, basically, it's like, how do you protect your ideas? And before that, how do you come up with ideas that are worth protecting? Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you and I are somewhat selling, is that.
I mean, like, people are talking about, like, I seriously get, like, people who send me their music, right, in email, and then they're like, Shred, don't share this because I don't want people to steal my ideas. I'm like, bro, don't worry about it.
Why did you send it to me?
Well, and trust me, like, no one's going to want to steal this. No one's going to want to steal that. So that's a concern to consider.
Yes.
Now, if you're
even if it's not worth stealing, act as though it is worth stealing. Definitely.
Sure. And listen, man, if you're Lord Mega Dave, one of the fathers of metal music, then yeah, okay, you're coming up with some good shit that you have to protect. So in his case, he's very embittered about this period, and he still talks about it.
I wouldn't say he's like mega bitter about it anymore. I think he just acknowledges it happened. He's going to continue to talk about it because he feels as though he's justified, and that's about it. Like, I have a funny feeling they've all come to a conclusion, like him and the members of Metallica.
Mike,
I could be wrong.
You got to think that somewhere deep inside Dave, because let's be honest, let's be super real for a minute.
6.9 inches inside of Dave. Is that where we're going?
I mean, if you look at the numbers, Megadeth has sold about, it's something like under 50 million albums, or right around there. Something like that. Now, Metallica has sold in excess of 120 albums. Listen, these two big dogs, Papa Het and Dave Mustaine, they will go down in history for sure as like the founders of modern metal. That's a big deal. So in Dave's mind,
big four thrash kings,
Yeah, sure, but Slayer's way smaller. Anthrax is like a tiny fraction of the size. So like when Dave is drifting off asleep to sleep at night, right? He's in his luxurious Los Angeles home.
Dave Mustaine? That's a Franklin home. That's just south of me, man. He lives very close to me.
I know. Doesn't he have a place in L.A. too? I know he's lived in L.A. for years.
Don't think so. I could be wrong, but his main home is here in Franklin.
Okay.
Yeah.
You might have.
I say that as if I live in Franklin.
I
live in Nashville, but Franklin's just south of us.
So wherever Dave Mustaine is laying his head to rest at night, he's thinking to himself, I could have had more. I could have been more. I could have had a bigger piece of the pie. Because if we're being completely honest, Metallica is a way bigger deal than Megadeth. Like, they're not even close.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. So that's got to bother him on some level. And obviously it does, because he brought it up in the Joe Rogan interview. I haven't seen the whole interview. He just seen these clips.
He did. Okay, so hold on really quick. In the Some Kind of Monster documentary, Dave brought it up in a very real fucking way, where he said very explicitly what you were saying. So that is absolutely evidence that it at least has bothered him. But I don't know that it necessarily still does, it to the extent to where it's ruining friendships, or that he is actually full of resentment. I could be wrong.
He literally said, the only thing that bothers me is that they claimed that music to be theirs and it was mine. Like, he specifically referenced the solos. He was like, well, Kirk Hammett learned my solos, but he said this. He said, they're not the same.
There's literal published recordings that show that that's true. Like that's not even just his words.
Like Mike, let's say you write a solo, right? And it's 420%. You know, it's incredible. Like, you're using all these tritones. Like, it's just like nether regions are moistening. You know, it's killer. And then I come along, shred, and I'm like, you know, playing all this garbage. Trying to like
sounds
emulate.
like a solo I would write.
I'm trying to like emulate what you're doing, and I'm failing. I'm just failing, right? And in Dave's mind, I'm not saying Kirk Hammett is failing. I think he's a proficient soloist.
I know what you mean.
Like, in Dave's mind, he's thinking like, well, no. He's like, you didn't quite capture the spirit of what I was doing. That has to be frustrating.
Oh, okay. Well, there's that, but it's even just like, okay, you are taking my literal ideas that I wrote, and you're being paid for them via royalties, while I should be, even though you performed them on the record that everyone knows.
I would be livid. I'd be like, well, if I was you, I was Mike, the music snob, become the night. I would be like, this is outrageous.
It depends upon the circumstances on whether or not I would be livid. But if I explicitly said, whatever, just don't use my music, and then they did, okay, yeah, I would be livid about that. I would definitely be livid about that. There was a circumstance where we wrote a song with someone who contributed some vocal stuff, and it was with the idea that they would be joining the band, and for whatever reason, schedules weren't lining up. That's the best way and most politically correct way I will say that. Schedules weren't lining up, and I decided to move on. They asked that they get writing credit for the writing that they did, and then they get paid for the time that they spent trying to write the song, both of those things. So in less than an evening, I rewrote anything that person contributed to, lyrically and melody wise, completely rewrote, and asked them specifically, how much do you feel like you should be paid for the time that you spent. Never got an answer back. The song is publicly available now, and they had every opportunity to see what could be claimed as stuff that they wrote or stuff that they didn't write, which frankly, I don't even think they were remotely aware enough to know what they did and didn't, even though I fucking was, because surprise, I'm the one most invested in my fucking project. But yeah, so like in that regard, I at least definitely do give a certain amount of credence to, like, okay, they contributed to these ideas, whether or not we know how much they contributed. I'm not gonna fucking use them. So from Dave's perspective of absolutely asking, hey, I gave these ideas, don't use them, and they still did anyway, is pretty fucked up. Because I highly doubt James helped write the fucking solos, and we know for certain Kirk didn't. You know, like it's a little
listen,
fucked up,
bro. Like, here's the deal. Like, if I was Dave Mustaine, here's how I would feel. I would feel like I was getting effed with something, you know, too large of a circumference to actually fit. It's one thing if you're like doing like stuff you don't care about, and if, let's say you're doing like a cover of WAP, W-A-P, and okay, whatever. Like if someone stole your parts on that, it's not that big of an issue. But Dave Mustaine was bleeding passion from his soul, from the depths of his soul, right? And those solos meant something to him. Those riffs meant something to him because they were original. It wasn't just like, you know, an arrangement of a popular song. That was spermia. That was his own seed.
It also wasn't just regurgitating etudes or anything like that. It wasn't just piecing that shit out.
Significant to him, right?
Yeah.
And then, like if I, you know, came up with some, I wrote this piece called Down Picking Dungeon recently, double D's. It's all about the double D's. Can we be honest here for a minute? It's double D's. And
my fucking meme king over here. God damn it.
If somebody stole that piece from me, I'd be like, well, I'm going to double D down on you and take you to court. I mean, like, that's not fair.
You're going to feel the full weight of my double D's.
Yeah.
I mean, the legal system.
They weigh roughly 6.9 pounds. It's a lot, you know, it's a lot of extra weight to carry around. So if I was Dave Mustaine, I'd be like, listen, this doesn't sit well with me. I understand why, you know, he's bitter. Now people in the comment sections,
Are you sure he's bitter? I don't know that he's legitimately bitter. I don't know that he's holding resentment.
I think what happened was, you know, Dave had a productive response to this slighting. You know, he built his own empire, his own metal kingdom, which is, you know, a really productive way to deal with adversity. You know, instead of being like, okay, I'm just going to go away and hide for 69 years.
Or be professionally destructive towards the people who you feel like slighted you.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he channeled that energy into a productive medium and created his own band, his own legacy, his own influence. So it worked out really well. But I think there's still a part of him where he's looking back on that and saying, well, Metallica is the biggest band. Trust me, Dave Mustaine knows how much bigger Metallica is. You know how much money Metallica makes?
Know.
Yeah, you know how much money Metallica makes per show? It is insane.
I have no idea. I imagine millions.
It's in the millions. You know, there's 7 figures of revenue per Metallica show. That's nuts. So if they go out on tour for, you know, whatever they can handle in their old age, right?
You got to keep in mind though, the one album that a bunch of the fucking purists want to shit on is the one that put them in that circumstance, and that's the Black Album, which Dave had absolutely fucking nothing to do with.
Once you go black, you never go back. That's all I know.
Yeah, accurate.
Fact.
But
facts.
But at the same time, like, feel like those are two different hurts to have, is the fact that there's the missed opportunity of being a part of the largest metal band ever, period, hands down. And there is the other one of they stole my fucking music. And I feel like he's over the missed opportunity bit, because definitely he acknowledged, hey, I was a fucked up dude back then. Maybe they weren't completely justified in kicking me out of the band because they were probably just as fucked up back then. But fate had it that I was the one on the chopping block, so I went out. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
You know what I think it was? I think that there was a double alpha situation. You can't have,
without a doubt.
You can't have like two. Here's what happens, Mike. Look at this.
I mean, if that's the case, I would say even triple alpha, because I feel like
it doesn't work. You can't have like, two alphas.
I feel like Lars and James are both alpha energy as well.
Well, that's true, but Lars like takes a different sector of the business. So, actually, Lars is like the entire business engine. If you talk to P-Het, Papa Daddy, he basically says, listen, like, I don't deal with all that stuff Lars deals with, like, the business stuff. He's like, I just like to rock. And that works. So he's like the alpha of the songwriting domain. But then Lars, who got fired by God, Lemmy, if you ever watch that clip, it's hilarious. But it happened. And if you can watch the clip, like Lemmy straight up fired Lars. He jammed with Metallica. But so Lars he takes care of one division of the band, the business side. We all remember the Napster days, right? That was a whole thing. And Lars was very involved with that. And I'll tell you something, like, if I was in a band, I would want a guy like Lars in the band, because it's division of labor. If we go back to economics, Adam Smith, way back, whatever. It's like the idea
if you're broadly saying I want a man who's business minded in the band, yeah, okay, I would want a man like Lars, but I would not want Lars Ulrich in my fucking band. A man who carries around, first of all, way too much of an ego for how small of a fucking dick he has. Two,
oh snap,
definitely public, make it public. Two, definitely that ego is impeding upon him actually pushing his craft forward and being a productive member of the art. And then three, mostly being a dickhead. I am blessed to work with not dickheads in my band, extremely blessed, who are also hardworking and very creative and very proficient human beings. I am super blessed. And I'm also blessed because I grew up after all of the failures of Lars's generation of mostly shitheads finding their cultural niche in putting themselves into the instrument because of that fuck you energy. So after all of that, after all of those mistakes, I get the cool people, for lack of a better term, the ones that don't do shitloads of drugs and the ones that are willing to work. So I have the privilege and benefit of saying, fuck no Lars Ulrich in my band. I definitely would not do that. Not by a long shot.
And maybe for you, it's not the right fit. I think there is a synergy that is happening in Metallica, that really works well. And in any successful band, you need to understand this concept of division of labor, where certain people do certain things. Like if everyone tries to do everything, it's just a mess, right? So
it's a disaster.
So Lars,
absolute disaster. Yeah,
Lars has this sort of experience and knowledge where he knows, hey, listen, if I take control of this area of the band, the marketing and whatnot, and then he's obviously involved in other areas like the songwriting.
A massive part of what made Metallica work was the fact that James Hetfield and he did not have healthy ways of expressing each other, so they took it out in the songwriting room where they made some fucking killer music. and I'm not saying that's a healthy way to live your life, but it can make some fucking badass music, hands down.
Yeah, dude. And yeah, if you watch like those documentaries, what's the Saint Anger one? Is that the
Some Kind of Monster?
That's the Some Kind of Monster. And so there's a point where they have like a therapist come in, and they're all.
I met that
like,
guy in real life. I met that guy in real fucking life years later. I was waiting tables at the fucking Omni Hotel here in Nashville, and that dude came in, and he absolutely loves hearing himself talk. He fucking lives for hearing himself talk. And he tipped me next to fucking nothing.
Oh, snap. Negative 69 cents. That's brutal.
Yeah, no, yeah, that was a dickhead ass move on his part, but it's fine. It's okay.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because like they're able to work things out. And what happens a lot of times is that when you clash, let's say you have a situation like this, and it's purely figurative, it's arbitrary, the fingers that I'm using. But if you have an issue where you're butting heads and you can't come to resolution, again, we talked about like that's the strength of humanity, collaborative effort. So if you can't figure out how to collaborate, how to coincide, how to have unity to reach a common goal, then you're not going to accomplish as much. So Metallica figured that out. They're like, well, Lars does a thing, James does a thing, Kirk does a thing.
It's also finding
Jason
people who help you
for a while.
It's finding people who help you compensate for your weaknesses. That's the other thing.
Yeah. And that takes some self-awareness that a lot of people don't have. Because what happens is like your ego, I might be like, Mike, the music snob, what do you think about these great chords that I'm playing, whatever. And you're like, well, Shred, I'm better at chords. So, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. And sort of being able to understand what your role is, what your part to play is a superpower. If you're interested in accomplishing more. Now, I get it. Sometimes, you think you have a 69-inch peen and you got to do it yourself, whatever. But if you're in the business of accomplishing more, reaching your full potential, there's going to have to be this economic principle of division of labor. And for the negative 420% of you that are interested, research Adam Smith. That's kind of the economist that put this on the map.
Hey, thanks for watching. This is a clip from a much longer conversation with Shredmaster Scott. You can see that on screen now. Go ahead and click it. You want to. It's awesome. We learn about, everything, the entire existence of the world, why guitar is absolutely terrible, yet also the greatest thing that's ever been created. Come on, you got to check it out. It's awesome.